Welcome to the Phil Vogel Podcast, NCM Special Edition. I'm your host, Phil Vogel. So on these shows, we're going to bring you subject matter experts that'll bring you timely, relevant, and actionable information. So before I introduce this show's guest, let me tell you a little bit more about NCM. NCM Associates business is all about knowledge, from in-depth management and leadership training to customized in-dealership consulting services. NCM delivers the knowledge dealers need to take their operation to the next level. As the largest retail automotive 20 group provider in North America, NCM brings business owners together to exchange best practices, ideas, and strategies. And because they're all car people, they can offer consultancy and web-based management solutions that will make your day-to-day operations smoother and more profitable. All backed by NCM benchmark data collected from thousands of dealers and OEMs every month that NCM serves across North America. Real numbers and real knowledge create real opportunities to impact your bottom line. Visit ncmassociates.com/podcast to learn more. So, today's guest has over 20 years in retail automotive. He spent over 4 years at Google Automotive and is now the co-founder of Foundation Direct. Please welcome Andrew Diffenderfer of Foundation Direct. We call him Diff. Welcome to the show, Diff.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me here today. Looking forward to it.
All right. So just before we get into it, Diff, tell us a little bit about what Foundation Direct is and what you're doing right now.
Absolutely. We are, we may be referred to as an agency in our space, I guess would probably be where most would put us. But we are a core platform for digital advertising for car dealerships. So we started Foundation Direct in November of 2019. Things were a little bit different then. We started a company left Google to start a company right before a global pandemic and an inventory shortage. So, once that boat left the shore, we were kind of like, well, we got to figure this out. And I can tell you, we used to joke at Google that, a year at Google was like 5 years at any other company. And fortunately, the past 2 years with my fantastic team, we have over 40 years of Google experience. Our CEO is Peter Lito, who led Google Automotive retail efforts for 14 years. COO is Ashley Lepchek, who authored Google's Dealer Guidebook. Tim Mueller, our co-founder and my business partner. We were both on the retail side working with dealers on best practices for ad strategies. So we had a crazy idea. There's a better way to do digital for dealers, a direct way, and make sure that we're consulting them through all the changes that happen. And looking forward to unpack that a little bit more with you today.
Sweet. So you do a lot of work with NCM 20 groups. So what advice are you giving them right now in this crazy environment when it comes to advertising their inventory?
That's a great question. We're, at Google, we always said, in God we trust, for everyone else bring the data. And I think that's where NCM and Foundation are very aligned, is that, there's not a really emotional side to what we do anymore. And, I think the data that NCM provides their operators and dealer partners from a financial level about what you can do that impacts profitability is how we view things that we do at Foundation. For every dollar you put into advertising, what can it turn out to be from a profitability standpoint? Mm-hmm. And, right now, I was just at a meeting probably about 20 days ago with a group, and it was a mixed OEM group. And, inventory is short, consumer demand for vehicles is high. And, ironically, I'm spending some time in New York at a small dealership up here, Paragon, which some people may or may not have heard of. And,
Sure.
To quote Brian, the best thing that can happen in our industry for profitability is have 10 people that want the same car. And it's amazing to me to see.
That's a quote. That's a Brian Benstock quote. You want to run that one more time for Brian?
The best thing that you can have for profitability on a vehicle is 10 people that want the same car, and, there's no risk of letting anyone know you have that car if you don't advertise it. Now, advertising can mean a lot of different things, but, the thing that we're dealing with right now is dealers saying, should I advertise? I'm going to sell everything I have anyway. Right. And, that's a very slippery slope. So that's a big topic right now in the space, and how we can help solve for that.
So you spent 20 years at Antrim Way Honda in Pennsylvania. I mean, you started out reconditioning cars and, so you've been around. And so
Yeah.
how's the business changed for you?
It has, it's interesting. It hasn't. And to unpack that, of course, there's shifts in every industry. I started washing cars. I like to say I was a hydroman because everyone has to have a job title. At 14 at my local Honda dealership, which was Antrim Way Honda.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started selling Hondas, we're in a market today that is as close to what I can recall of being a Honda sales consultant when I turned 18 years old.
Right.
And the process was very, we sold, anywhere from 80 to 100 cars a month, new. And those cars, I didn't have them on the lot. I had a Civic, and it was white, and it had gray cloth interior. And if you wanted red, it was on the inventory sheet. And you put Phil's name beside it, and Phil, I'm going to take $1,000 deposit, and that car will be here in 3 months. And
right.
I sold cars that way. I was there when the shift, when gas prices went up and people were trading Suburbans in for Honda Civics, which caused another massive shortage of inventory. And then the Honda Odyssey came out, the updated Odyssey in 2005. I lived through that, and that was a pre-order status. And the good news is profitability is not a bad word. And we're back to that, but it's more industry wide for other reasons. But I think it's I cut my teeth there, and I then went on to be a sales analyst at American Honda. And again, good or bad, I was a sales analyst at American Honda through the 2008 recession and cash for clunkers. And I studied 123 dealerships throughout the Mid-Atlantic. I literally drove a Honda Odyssey to every single dealership in my zone and did what was called a dealer discovery, because dealers were stacking up with inventory, and we were trying to find ways and efficiencies of where they could get opportunity. And it's very similar when you got to take these moments in time and connect the dots, right? And the dots that are beginning to connect is that there's always opportunity because of the amount of profit centers that a dealership has. Phil, when we were talking a little bit earlier, my early mentor, Greg Weaver, who owned Antrim Way Honda, still a great friend to this day. And, he said to me, if you, I graduated college and all my friends are going to be accountants and financial planners and who knows what. And I went back to selling cars because that's what I knew how to do. And I loved it. And he said, if you come back to sell cars with me, I want to put you in a new car manager position, but I want to train you to be a junior general sales manager where you can understand how you can have 5 businesses in one business. And that was a car dealership.
Right.
And that lit me up. So
I know that conversation. Absolutely. So, hey, tell me, you were Google is very involved in automotive, and you were there for 4 years on that team. And so what does Google know that dealers and their agencies don't know?
That's a fair question, and let me give you the Google kind of sentiment here a little bit is that the simplest way I can classify it for you is there's 9, and this may have changed slightly, but there's 9 major properties that Google owns that have 1 billion monthly active users each. Those things include Google Photos, they include YouTube, they include Google Maps, they include Google Chrome, they include Google Assistant, they include Gmail, they include Google Search. And the biggest thing that Google understands to a T is consumer sentiment and what they put into a search bar. And they don't know it's Phil Vogel. They don't know that it's Andrew Diffenderfer. What they can do, though, is classify you as an audience. So when somebody expresses interest by looking at a car dealership through Google Maps, watches the RAV4 versus the Honda CR-V on a YouTube video, and then they go search for Honda CR-V lease offers in Queens, New York, that's a pretty good idea that somebody's in market for a new CR-V. And, dealers often miss that opportunity because dealers do not play by the simple formula that Google puts out there. The better ad that you write, the less you pay and the more effective it becomes.
What?
Yeah, what? So let me unpack that a little further. And this is relevant for today.
It's a great nugget. So we're going to wrap this one. I want to go ahead.
Yeah, so there's 2 components, and then we can go through this. As right now is what I'm hearing now is should I put prices on my cars or should I not put prices on my cars? Okay. And we ran a study on 4,000 ads across 10 dealerships over 30 days. So 4,000 ads, 10 dealerships over 30 days. And we did an analysis of those 4,000 ads with price and without price.
Right.
When the dealerships as an aggregate removed price and number in stock from the ad, their conversion rate went down 27%. So they lost 27% of their conversion date, which is, and I'll go even deeper. The conversions were actual hard conversions, meaning call, click, they were not like a VDP. The second thing that happened is their cost to get the same traffic went up 28%. So the traffic decreased 27%, cost went up 28%, and it shook out to they basically got 28% less traffic for $7,000 more cost by taking the price and inventory out of the ad. Because Google rewards you for two things. If Phil Vogel types in Honda CRV lease offer near me,
right,
and you show a lease offer of $287.54 a month and there's 19 in stock, you pay less for that ad because it answers the user's query better. You take that information out where you say family owned and operated, 100 in stock, come see us. You charge more for that and you get less clicks because it doesn't give any context. Dealers need to bring the VDP to the search results page because that's what consumers want. When you do that, you get better conversion rate. And that's we when we're buying something, I don't care if it's a pair of running shoes, a bag of coffee, or a set of golf clubs. When you give the user the information they want, they convert at a higher rate and you pay less for it.
Wow. That's a lot to unpack. I mean that those are all some interesting metrics. But so what's the best way to measure your advertising today? I mean, as a dealer, how do you measure your advertising? What David Ogilvy once said, right? Half your advertising works. We just not sure what half, right? So things have changed a lot since David Ogilvy said that. But I'm curious, based on what you just said, I mean, what's the approach there?
It's a really fair question. Obviously, we focus 100% in paid digital media. We're not a website provider. We're not a social provider. We're not a reputation provider. We are geeked out when it comes to figuring out the best way from a digital perspective. But I would say today that you should measure your advertising the same way that I used to measure my effectiveness as a salesperson is your traffic that's coming to your website. That is your digital footprint. And, we can talk till we're blue in the face about website providers, but the reality is if you don't understand what that user is doing on the website and you don't understand the metrics that impact that, then you have no shot at being able to gauge effort. I love, and I'm going to say the C word on this is Carvana, right?
Perfect.
It's a hot topic, Phil, in our industry right now. And the one thing that they do when they go into a market is they put billboards around the market. They literally surround their sales tower or their dispensing machine with billboards. And everyone goes, I'm not, he said to a dealer, if you told a dealer today, hey, I want you to go buy all the billboards around your dealership. I'm not doing that. But why would somebody do that? The reason that they do that is because there's a correlation of triggering an event and search activity. Offline activity drives online conversion.
Right.
And, they know that if they put Carvana billboards there, if there's 200,000 people that drive by that today, there might be 10 or 15 of those that are in market for a car, and maybe they search for Carvana. And then it's the gotcha. So they're measuring their performance when they do that. I guarantee you there's a correlation. And to simplify this, I've done studies when it snows in certain markets to see what happens with what people search for from a service perspective. 90% of dealers today do not advertise service as part of their digital advertising effort, and they certainly do not correlate it with weather events. We think that's really important because you can really kind of capitalize where the others aren't. And these are the types of things I look at to measure if things are being profitable for the dealership. So that's why we like going to talk to NCM dealers, because we can really get down in the weeds and say, okay, what's your buy profit center strategy? How are you aligning the dollars there?
Right.
And what's your return on ad spend when you do that? I don't care if it's digital or if it's traditional or if it's offline. I mean, it's all marketing. I look at it as marketing. There is no offline or online. It's marketing today. And we keep it simple. Do you make more money when you feed these machines? Yes or no? You don't, then cut the advertising budget. It's part of, not to go back to our company, but there used to be a lot of smoke and mirrors, and every agency was pushing more budget because they paid a commission on that budget. We're a flat technology fee. So think of Netflix. You pay the same fee whether you watch 300 titles a month, you watch one title a month, you pay the same fee. And we believe that's in the best interest of the dealer to have a direct
Is that right?
relationship.
That's a hell of a value proposition. That's very
Well.
So. Go ahead.
No, it's just, it candidly, it's what's needed.
Right.
We got looked at like we had four heads when we left Google, but ironically, things come full circle. My business partner, Tim, and I were at an NCM meeting, and a dealer said, "Can you, Diff, please just come to the store for a week and fix things for me?" I said, "Man, I can't, I'm with good, we got to be good stewards of everybody that we represent." And, the job at Google was fantastic. Like, I'm so amazed and thankful for the opportunity, but I also personally have one of our corporate philosophies is that we don't compete, we collaborate. And
right.
Every dealership in the industry is the client, and they deserve to have collaboration on their behalf, not competition. And that may sound a little bit, pie in the sky, but I don't believe in competing. I believe in doing the right by the dealer, and doing right by the dealer is not increasing their budget so that you can get a bigger commission at the end of the month. You just got to do a good job regardless. And that's the society we live in now. So,
right.
We have to figure that out. And, I love it. I'm thankful for it. And we have a great team of people that believe in that as well. And we have about 132 dealerships in the United States right now. And, it's not been easy. We're not out here to grow crazy fast. We're out here to do right by the dealers and make sure that they're getting results. And we can't please everyone. Right. So
so just talk, you mentioned, we'll digress a second. You mentioned a couple minutes back about service advertising, fixed ops, which is near and dear to my heart and every dealer on the planet. Right. So what are you seeing and what are you suggesting to your dealers for fixed ops, driving fixed ops?
So it's a great
I'm curious
question.
Also, so what are you using and how are you measuring? So
100%. So we measure twice a day our budget allocations by profit center for all of our clients. So I can tell you right now today that 41% of our clients that we manage their media on behalf of them is being spent in new car, for example. Right. What's been interesting to me since we started the company, we look at this obviously daily, is that when we started the company, we had 12% of the total spend. So let's say we had $10,000 that would be allocated towards service. Now in 2021, November of 2021, we have 11% of that total invested towards service. And there's a little holiday travel season coming up. $800 billion industry, which dealers get 20% of. And there's literally, and this is funny, Phil, my first presentation at Google was a digital dealer in 2015. And it was how to leverage Google for fixed ops service marketing. That was my first presentation. And
no kidding.
And here we are. Yeah. And the way
long
you got
departure from your Honda car care days, right?
Right. I mean, it's kind of it's still there. The opportunity is still there. And there's some dealers, I'm generalizing, there's some dealers that have 150% leaned into this. And it becomes a conversation of how much business do you want and what markets do you want to serve? It's fresh because I've been with Brian, but Brian Benstock from Paragon has done 150,000 pickup and deliveries in his market over the past 3 years.
Yeah. And very familiar with that model. He took a problem, right, and created an opportunity like nobody's business.
And that opportunity exists for every dealership in the United States today.
Couldn't agree more.
So there's, we measure that. There's a lot that you can measure. If I was a dealer today, I would have an opt code on every offer that's a printable coupon, or I could save to my device on my website. I mean, if a user goes there and you can save the oil change coupon to your Apple Wallet, and if your website provider can't do that, ask them why not, because that's a pretty good way. And I put an opt code on that, and I tell the service advisor, put the opt code in the DMS when the customer comes in, and we put $1,000 into that oil change offer this month. What did we generate from ad spend? We generated 10 grand. Good, run the play again.
So that's a great idea. Yeah. Are you guys doing that where you can actually upload it to the wallet?
We recommend it. There's website providers. We're not a website provider. We work agnostically with every provider.
But it's a great recommendation.
We do have a very robust service offering without getting into the weeds. But when we get into the digital advertising side of things, one of the things that really stuck out right now is consumers can't get the car they want. So the first thing they search after they buy the car is accessories. And, that space is dominated by non-dealership franchise companies.
Yes.
So we offer accessories. We recommend that the dealer have an accessory after purchase coupon on the page. If you're a dealer listening to this today and you're not capitalizing on the accessory after sale market right now, when customers can't get what they want, it's a massive profit center. I would, back to my days at Antrim Way, Greg used to say to me, what a Accord that was on the showroom floor with the full body kit and the HFP wheels. I'm like, we sold it. And he goes, so let's get another red Accord and put it on the floor and accessorize it, because people like personalization.
Right. So I mean, and dealers that aren't doing aftermarket, taking advantage of that, all they got to do is visit SEMA, right? Visit SEMA for a day,
this week, right now,
an hour, right? Unbelievable, huge opportunity. I forget what the number is, the investment that's going back into, they call them sports compact cars, right? The Fast and Furious crowd, right? I mean, the money that they spend annually on those vehicles, the owners, it's a stunning number, and it's a huge market.
So, I'm a digital enthusiast, and I love cars. And the reason I got my job at a dealership is because I was breaking stuff on my cars at a rate that I couldn't afford. And my dad thought it would be a better idea for the dealership just to take the money out of my paycheck and have me wash cars than it was for me to go out and quit. I was drag racing Hondas, and I broke a lot of Honda stuff, and it was very expensive. It was turbocharging Hondas. Fast forward 25 years later, in a week, my truck's going down to get, I'm that guy. I literally buy something. I want the niche model, and I still, because I love it. And to your point, there's a whole market of people who love it. CDJR dealerships, the Jeep markets are crazy right now.
It's crazy.
Hats off to FCA for scratching the itch.
Mopar got it right on this one, right? Big time.
Them and Ford, they get it. They absolutely get it, 100%.
Hey, so I'm going to digress yet again. So I want to read you a few numbers, okay? So I'm going to get them exact. So CarMax has got a $21 billion market cap. Lithia, $10 billion. AutoNation, $8.5 million. Penske, $8.4 billion. Total that up, that's $48 billion and change. Carvana has a $49 billion market cap. I mean, how does a dealer compete with Carvana and their billboards and vending machines?
It's certainly a great question. And I can tell you the one thing that you shouldn't do is question if you should spend money in advertising because Carvana right now that I have seen does not stop advertising, and they always include price and number and stock in every single ad that they do. Now, the interesting thing about a lot of the companies that you mentioned in the first part of that are very sophisticated automotive companies, and utmost respect for them. And they've built empires, and they continue. I think there's a lot of banter in the industry right now, which is what's going to happen? And I can tell you what's going to happen. Okay. If we go to electrification, McKinsey said that if we go to electrification, people are still going to crash cars, people are still going to need their brakes, and they're still going to have to replace their tires. Okay, so there's electrification. You're still going to need service points to do those cars. Carvana doesn't have the ability to service cars today. No. What they do is they sell cars at a massive scale, and they do it from the convenience of your home. There's many examples of what they do right, but there's also an opportunity. Like if I was a dealer right now, and instead of worrying about what Carvana's doing, I would be understanding, if I owned a Ford store, I would be understanding the units in operation in my market that I didn't sell. Did they come from CarMax? Did they come from Carvana? And I would get back to where we went before, Phil. I would get on the service train because units in operation are going to continue to increase from non-traditional players, and those people are going to get those cars serviced. The question is, they're going to go to an independent, or are they going to come to a dealership? So
So that
it's
data that dealers are getting, whether it's geolocation stuff, people tracking on the website, the pixels dropping on their browser, or Polk data, a lot of that data is more. How are you recommending to dealers that they analyze that kind of data about the UIOs and the units in operation in their markets?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we actually had a call yesterday with our friends at Google. We stay very close there because of the amount of data that is to be able to be understood. And one of the biggest things you can look at is search interest. What's the search interest in a market? If there's 100 people searching for Ford service in a DMA, and that only 4 of those clicks went to a tier 3 dealership, the rest went somewhere.
Yep.
And that's where I'd first start, which is data that's readily available. If you're advertising through Google, you can get that information. Secondarily is that, I believe the manufacturers are partners. In this case, they have a lot of data. And the question is do you have the ability to use that data? Because the first thing they're going to say is, hey, your unit's in operation, you're not meeting the service demand here, but nobody's looking at it. We're in good times right now. And I think the ability to understand data and experiment a little bit, a way to get those unit operations is the best to do it. I had a great conversation 2 weeks ago with Jay Abraham. And Jay's brilliant. And he said to me 2 things. One was optimization and innovation are in direct competition with each other. Optimizing is to protect and potentially keep what's yours for your business. Innovation is the ability to move forward and solve problems that people haven't solved for yet. The thing that allows you to innovate versus optimize is taking a percentage of any profits and always be experimenting. And service is where I would be experimenting with some of my profits right now and figuring out how we are able to service more customers, regardless if it's electric, regardless if we sold the car. Because if we do our jobs right, Phil, we can retain those customers. If we give them a wow experience, brand loyalty is at an all-time low. People are just not loyal to brands anymore.
No.
But they are loyal to an experience. Apple's proved that. Amazon proves that. I mean, there's tons of. So if a dealership can prove out an experience, the probability of getting the next sale could be a lot higher if we give them a really good experience, even though we didn't sell that first initial car. So that's where I would put that innovation if I was in a dealer, if I'm in a dealership today.
Good advice from Jay Abraham. How to get everything you can out of everything you've got. That was his book. I read it years and years ago. That was a good one. So
fantastic.
Yeah, right. And he's a dynamic guy and so bright. Third-party aggregators. Let's talk about them for a minute. So they're stealing, double-digit market share every year, right, from the retail dealer. I mean, so how does a retail dealer compete against these aggregators right now? What are you recommending?
Yeah, it's a very interesting model. It's the Auto Traders, Cars.coms, the Car Gurus. It's always interesting to me that if a dealership will say, hey, the third-party endemic site, let me give you my inventory to list on your site so the customer can come back to my dealership. I said, if this wasn't an online piece, would you literally take all the Hondas that come off the truck and just put them on an independent lot and then say, to close the deal, you got to come back to the dealership? And everyone goes, I'm not doing that. Like, they're my cars. I do believe there's 2 sides of this. There's a dealer side and there's a consumer side. And we studied this very heavily at Google, a very big passion point of mine. And again, I don't believe in competition. I believe in collaboration. And if you think about it from a consumer's perspective, those sites certainly have a place. You look at find me one dealership website today that I can compare a Toyota RAV4 to a Honda CR-V on the dealer's site. You can't do it. It's very expensive to do that. Now, the reality is that marketed correctly, I think there's a place for them. But the reality is many of our clients at Foundation, before they start working with us, they had no used car search strategy at the VIN level. That space is dominated by those endemic sites because they know that dealerships weren't there. 51%, I believe, I'll get you the exact number. 51% of their traffic on average comes from paid search, not from organic. They're advertising that there. So there's opportunity. And It depends on how heavy they are in the market. Some of these companies, and Carvana is at the top of the heap. I mean, they are watching
51%
when
comes from
dealer
paid search.
on an aggregate of endemic sites. Yes.
Wow.
So you search for a 2018 Honda Accord in your market and see who comes up. Good chance it's one of the people that you're paying to give your inventory to. So it's, I always say, just why not do it yourself? Go direct, right? Why not just,
Right.
if you have an 18 Honda Accord in stock, sell the 18 Honda Accord. I did an experiment. I had my wife was selling a vehicle, and I said, you know what? I'm going to stand up a little website, and I'm going to put a $500 a month paid search budget to the car that you want to sell. Phil, I got so many phone calls. I put a 25-mile radius around our house, and I basically just cranked the bids up. I got so many phone calls on the stinking car that it took me 3 days, and the car was sold.
Wow.
And
I
just simply focused on it.
I mean, they did it up.
$150.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it just, and so people called me. They went to the website, and the website was something I stood up with little pictures of the car and a video, and I said, and so when anybody 25 miles around where I live search for the vehicle my wife was selling, which at that time I believe it was a Yukon. I came up, they went to my website, and, I said, call, hey, call, FaceTime, or text me. I'm happy to go through the car with you. And the car was sold in 3 days. And,
wow.
It's not that hard. And dealers can do this all the time, but it's just getting that mentality right and understanding where your investment lies.
So Diff, before we wrap this up, let me ask you, so we talked a lot about advertising, and you said, there's a lot of, I'm curious as to what the argument you're making. Make an argument for a dealer to really advertise today, because I know you're running up against resistance, right? So I think you made a great case, but just tie it up in a bun for us.
You got it. So if a dealer is questioning whether they should advertise today, my first answer would be 100% yes. And the reason for that is that you're at no risk of selling anything, a new car, a used car, a service offer, if you don't let the public know that you have it. And the way people find out about things today is they search for it. And so the question is, are you going to be there or are you not going to be there? I can't convince any dealer. If they don't believe in advertising and awareness, then don't advertise. That's your prerogative.
Right.
Your cost to get back into the game when everyone else is back in there is going to be much higher. Right now, it's very efficient because it's an auction and people are out. And I'm speaking only about digital advertising, but my perspective and for our clients is you should always be on. And even if you say on the low end, Phil, if you say, you know what, I don't have any cars, I have no cars. Well, our clients, if there's no cars in the inventory feed, we don't advertise the cars. So it turns off the ad groups anyway. So it's just automated. So that's taken care of for us. I can't speak for others, but that's how it works for us. But you should absolutely make sure people know what you do. You absolutely should be top of mind. We're seeing people, it used to be 45 to 60 days that people search for a car. It could be 90, 180 now. So you want Phil Vogel Honda to be in top of people's mind through YouTube, through Facebook, through awareness.
Right.
And you can keep that top of mind awareness there very efficiently right now. So, there's tons of ways you can do this. I absolutely believe it still comes down to a cost per car sold. I don't believe you need to make the investment that you once were making, but I do believe you could take the money you were spending and shift it to serviced and shift it to use and use it to create awareness. So reallocation, I'm a big fan of reallocation versus cutting.
And don't make your brand a ghost, right? I mean, don't make it so hard for people. Absolutely. And fixed ops, like we said, huge opportunity. So Andrew, how do people follow you, get in touch with you, LinkedIn, your website?
100%. It's I'm just Diff at Foundation Direct is the easiest way.
DIFF.
So just DIFF at Foundation Direct. And then obviously our website's foundationdirect.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on social media. I'm more than happy to do that. We do offer, as part of what we do, we offer complimentary analysis to the keyword level for anyone that would be interested. And this is no obligation. This is literally where we run a full analysis from the team that built, it's basically like having your own Google team for your dealership, analyze the store. My co-founder, Tim Mueller, runs every dealership through that. And this is just to say, hey, take it back to your search provider and ask them to do a better job for you. And so
they can find, people can find you. Your website is
foundationdirect.com.
And then on LinkedIn,
Andrew Diffenderfer.
perfect.
And Diff at Foundation Direct. So
Awesome.
We're there.
All right. So thanks again to NCM and Associates for their sponsorship of the Special Edition podcast. And Diff, thank you again for being on the show. I knew it would be a great one. And so be sure to like and subscribe to our channel to get notified when a new episode is up. So until next time, see you down the road.